to everyone to the Perimenopausal Athletes and Beyond Masterclass series. I was just saying, like, I'm a bit emotional because this is the last interview that we're doing, and it's the one with me. And first of all, I just want to introduce you to Willa Kriebel. So welcome, Willa.
Hello.
And I have asked Willa to interview me and just to share a little bit about my story. You've been following, me, and as I interview the most amazing humans throughout this, whole series. And I asked Willa, specifically Willa, because of her involvement with women on a really big scale. And she had founded the first in Canada women's only cycling club. And I came to know about it just because of, word of mouth and this environment that she has created of warmth and connection, and everybody belongs. And so, that's who she is, right? So that's awesome. That's a start. She also serves on our Provincial Cycling BC board and has done that for 5 years. So she's at the hearing and being part of a community that brings from top at the high performance all the way down to how do we support masters athletes to come up and be involved in sport. And she herself is a competitive athlete and has been all her life, but it's very important that it says as she defines it. And that's who we have today to interview me. And do I need to say anything else? Or should I just turn it over?
Turn it over. We're putting you in the hot seat, and no pun intended with perimenopausal athletes. I think the hot seat will be a good one for you today. But first of all, as part of this community, I really want to thank you for putting this whole series of speakers together. I listened to quite a few of them, and holy cow, I want some Tenille juice drinking every night, because your enthusiasm and your passion is so genuine. And I just love what you're doing to create this community. It's such a spirit of the community here. And as soon as we get more people listening and more people connecting and asking questions on your live Facebook group, I'm just so excited for the future. It's just going to be, we're just going to rock it.
We are going to rock it, people.
So what we're going to do today, folks and everyone, thank you for being part of this series and enjoying and, writing your notes and get your questions out there. And, we're going to answer them. But what we're going to do today is we're going to sort of take the 4 themes of mindset, nutrition, training, and recovery. And we're going to sort of talk about the speakers and how it all incorporates with perimenopausal athletes and beyond. But first of all, Tenille, can you please tell me what was the impetus and the catalyst for you to create these series? Were you going, where are my glasses? I don't know where they are, and I really need to talk, get this out, or tell us about that.
Yeah, thanks for that question. I think it goes back to how we as female athletes grow up and understand our hormones just generally. So as I grew up in sport and, I was a high level competitor from a young age, and I didn't know about anything about my hormones. I just didn't know. It wasn't talked about. It wasn't part of our dialogue and conversation. So there was many failures. I didn't get my period for many, many years. I was put on birth control to just tap that down. And then I just started having so many challenges as I continued in my sports, from injury to fatigue to lack of motivation to I've never been to depression, even at some point, just crying a lot. And so I didn't understand any of it. And then I read Roar. When it first came out, and it explained so much, but it didn't explain everything to me. And then I fast forward, I'm in my 40s now. So fast forward, I started getting a cycle after I had stopped training so hard. And I became really angry. Like, I had gone through the training years, I had like gotten the hot flashes, I had gotten everything, like, because I was, yeah, I had stopped getting my period. So even when you are young and you stop getting your period, you still go through those same things. You still get hot flashes. I still had to change my sheets. I still had, like, I was like, what is going on? Nobody mentioned anything. And about hormones, let's just put you on the pill. And so then fast forward, I met my husband. That was great. Wanted to have children, major issues. I think I was in perimenopause already to start, but again, not really understanding. And I still wanted to have kids. So yes, you can have kids even if you're in perimenopause. But I had a lot of troubles. And again, it was hormones. So I had to dig even deeper into understanding hormones and understanding what's going on. How do I, not just as a active athlete or woman, but how do I understand it for my health? And that's where I came into realizing that, this is so important. Like, it is, I don't want young people. I don't want women our age. I don't want women that are beyond and wanting to stay physically fit. Like, my mom is in her late 60s and she is trying to stay strong. And I want that for everyone. Like, because then we can be our best. And I think it comes across my passion, maybe just a little bit, but that's where it comes from. It's because I suffered so much. And I am now on a path that I know things that every woman should know.
So, but tell me though, because you've got this passion, but what really resonates with me through your whole series is that you're really the believer of this, bringing in that science to the female body. And can you just talk about, because your head nods with every speaker going, science, woo, yes, let's connect with that. Instead of saying, yeah, you need to eat your protein. There you go, get your protein. You're really connecting the audience and the community and the speaker and us with the whole science. Can you talk about the desire of the science side to the female?
Well, I guess it's just part of me that I believe so much in, that we can learn about the human body from a scientific way, and that it can be a platform for us to first, as the very beginning of a conversation, and that science provides us with that start of that conversation. And then layered on top of that is the individual.
Right.
And because science only ever can go so far, but it gives us the starting point. Because there's a lot of times that science hasn't been done correctly. Nutritional science is one of them. We can talk about it. And has been, based on the male model of, because that was participants, in the university settings, it was young males. Females were complicated. All that, that understanding. And so, but now we are changing that, and we have to keep on elevating that quest for knowledge. We have to, demand it. We need to talk about it. And there's so much there that is out there in the world that is just so not scientifically grounded.
Yeah.
And even that being said, so, this is, I know I asked one of the speakers, Dina, and we talked about the science. And I said, especially because I'm really fascinated by nutritional science. And it's like, well, if we waited for everything, if we waited for the nutritional science to catch up for active women in perimenopause and beyond, we'd be waiting for a really long time to be able to take action. So we have to look at anecdotal stuff and trends, but more important, we have to come back to say, is this right for us?
So let's talk about, then we're going to segue from like the science side to I am enough, and understanding that not everyone is so sciencey. And so how do you get into that mindset and honor the science and honor that you are enough, and that, aging is a gift, And there's so many things that happens to friends and families when we get older that's really important to connect
Mhm.
and to have that mindset together as a community and what happens in there. Let's talk about one of your speakers, Nikki, and how fired up and powerful she is to just go and conquer the world. Let's talk about mindset and your series and your speaker series.
Yeah. So yeah, starting, we started off and with Nikki and her really saying to have courage to chart, like pave your way and figure it out for you, because we are in this environment of just overwhelm, abundance, so much. How do I cut through? How do I listen to? Who should I listen to? Where am I getting my information? And it is, I think the first thing that we really want to come to is this place of curiosity. And
Mhm.
not just, like, okay, I heard this, but like, I heard this, and is it right for me? And that was a really powerful way to
Yeah.
start, because I believe in every one of these speakers. Otherwise, I wouldn't have had them. They're based in science. They have track records. They are, well, you judge for them yourself on them because you've listened to them. And from there, then we still have to go to a place of, is this right for me? Because every body might need something different. And I think that, okay, so yeah, so that's the starting place of mindset.
Yeah.
And then we keep going and we keep learning. And, Amanda talked about values in her book. When did values come part of a discussion in athletics?
Yes.
And to me, that's just groundbreaking.
Yes.
And you mentioned in our, just before we started talking in this interview, that I'm a massive Brené Brown fan, but that's because of this emotional intelligence that we need to have. And it comes into, as women entering perimenopause, in perimenopause and beyond, to have a really one other really incredibly powerful tools, and that's self-compassion. And that was spoken about within the series as well, and came up repeatedly throughout in different ways, I think.
Yeah. I think also too is we are so good at overthinking things. And what really came out in that whole mindset piece too is understanding the ownership and how are we going to show up for ourselves every day. And what my mindset, what I found was the light bulb came on when it's like, oh, I'm now in my 50s. I actually need more recovery, or I actually can't like hammer all the time without having some time to, do some other sports. So I think it's that not overthinking, like, how are you going to show up for yourself? And as you said, take the courage and garner the information, which is so brilliant that you're giving it to us, and then taking that information and figuring out how you're going to show up for yourself every day.
Yeah. And I think it's exactly that. And I think like Courtney gave us a really great idea. And that was to look at your planner, to look at your agenda, like when you look at your day and you look at your calendar and you say, okay, well, what is my day look like? And is this aligned with my values? Interesting. 2, am I making decisions that are right for me today?
Right. Right.
And if they're not, then do we feel stuck in the way we're living our life? Because our life is just every single day. It's making choices every single day. It doesn't magically, like, it is that choice. It is that moment. It is that workout. It is that meal. It is every little thing that, and, another speaker spoke about that. It's like these habits.
Right.
These little steps that we take.
So what are your habits in terms of segueing into nutrition? Has nutrition changed for you since you have done your research and have had kids and you're still an athlete and you're coaching, what does, and you talk about hormone balances, and a protein is not just a protein and sugar is not just sugar. So because a lot of that kind of went over my head, but I'm like, wow, I got to take ownership on that and try and
Mhm.
figure that out for myself. And I've got two athletic daughters as well, and an athletic husband. So how do you incorporate all that food to be good for everyone? Can you talk
Yeah.
about
Well, okay, so there's a bit of a two questions. It's like,
that?
what do I do? And then what is it that's right for like that individualization, and how do I support, for example, my athletes to go through this process?
Right.
So I certainly did not eat the way that I do now when I was, in my younger years, and then as an older athlete. So I was an athlete at a young age, and then I started triathlon when I was 27 with the
Wow.
goal of becoming an Olympian, and just kind of a little bit oblivious, but just with, fire and passion. Just, I'm going to go for it. Didn't make it. Anyway, exactly. Right. And so as that athlete, though, I was really trained in the low fat,
Mm,
like, way of thinking. I was really within the diet culture. I was really in everything had to be power to weight. I was really into calorie counting. I was really into, yeah, I think the biggest one was no fat. Like, that just really infiltrated everything of my previous way of eating. And then I met a woman when I moved to Boulder, and she made bliss balls. It started with the bliss ball, everybody. It started with my bliss ball. And that was starting just to understand, oh, I actually need to eat. Like, it's fascinating because this idea of clean eating was so prevalent. Even when I would go to training camps, all these athletes were eating salads. And that's what I thought was what we were supposed to just eat, is salads.
yeah. Yeah.
And I didn't understand. And so, then began I knew I was missing something. I went to 5 different nutritionists, and I didn't get the help that I needed. I was so malnourished, so malnourished. And 5 nutritionists later, I still didn't have the answers, because nutritional science has changed so dramatically
Yeah.
from
Yeah.
where it was. And so then my education began. And it wasn't in the traditional science that I got the answers.
Mm,
I had to go way beyond that, because the numbers didn't work out. Nothing was working. And so then I started developing my own philosophy, and that is more mainstream now, of eat real food. And it's what Dina was talking about, and how do we come into understanding. And this is how now I bring it and into the athletes, and listening to Dina and to Kiara, and thinking about, how do we approach it? Do we have enough is a big one for me
huge.
and women,
Yeah.
because there is this cycle of dieting, because we gain weight when we hit perimenopause all of a sudden, right? Like, all of a sudden we're just like hanging on. It's like, what the heck is going on? It wasn't my body is shifting. What I found fascinating about Jillian, which was the second speaker, the first day, right after Nikki, and she talked about, let's maybe reframe it and understand, how is our body working for us? Yes, we want to keep and understand and know that body that has served us so well.
Yes. And you know what, I've got a quote here. She said, lifting each other up. Every athlete is a different size, and we can totally walk that line together and support each other. Yes, you're bang on. I know.
Can you just say that once more? Because that was Jillian to me. That is.
Yeah. It's about lifting each other up, and every athlete is a different size, and we can totally walk that line together.
Yes.
And honor that and celebrate that and support that. Yeah. And I remember running the New York Marathon 30 years ago, but I was just so surprised with the different size and shapes, and all these people that were just hammering it. And it was so like, wow, like, we all have power together, and we're a community, not I'm this shape and this is my community. It's we are athletes all together.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so I love that you bring that up, because in triathlon and in synchronized swimming, those were my sports. They were both very much, you want, like, if you look at the epitome of the triathletes, like Kona, and there's a lot of unhealthy looking individuals, and it scares me when I look at that. I'm just like, wow, we have a whole culture of, unhealthiness that is being portrayed as the epitome of our sport.
Mm-hmm.
And that to me isn't the epitome of, and although it might be for some individuals, that shape, that look, that whatever. I also just really want to come into what Samantha Monpetit Huen, and the fact that there was such a lack of diversity.
Yes.
And when we are walking that line together, we need to have greater representation.
Yes.
And I'm committed to it. And boy, was it hard. And so we, Samantha and I had an interview specifically on that.
Yes. And she does talk about experiences different, not for, it's different. It doesn't matter what culture or color of skin you are, but it impacts health. And so we have to take the science again and apply that. And she also says fitness doesn't have to look a certain way, which appeals to the masses, to show representation in people in their journey instead of the end result, which was really powerful too.
Yeah.
So it's really interesting to look at, you got to have the mindset about your nutrition that you were talking about, because you had a mindset when you were training when you're younger, and now your mindset's different for your nutrition now and what you're putting into your body and the science of it.
And I think, yes, so everything, performance is based upon the foundation of health.
Right. So let's go and look at the training side.
Yeah.
So because I mean, sleep, gut health, let's talk about the training and the speakers and sort of the top points in that area.
Yeah, so we had Matt Dixon, who is a world-class triathlon coach. We had Julie. We had actually quite a few people that also did a bit of training and a little bit of everything. Yeah. And I think that that's the demand that's coming through. It's like especially for women, is that to be able to know how to train somebody, you have to know a little bit about nutrition with it, and understand the recovery. So there's you can't prescribe anymore. And that's really what was coming through from Julie and from Matt and from others, that training plans aren't prescriptions. And there's only one person that can tell you that what you need to do. And that's yourself. Like, it has to come from being aware, because there's some coaches and okay, so the online training is prevalent. And one of the reasons why I'm doing what I'm doing is because we now have Zwift, we have Sufferfest, we have Trainer Road. Like, this is just in the cycling community, but it goes, like, the prevalence of online training is massive. I'm an online coach. I don't get to see my athletes every day. It's not the same, especially like for women. We have a lot of women I know, we can't join in to, whatever time the group is doing, because, there's kid pickup, there's parental responsibilities that the parents that we're taking care of. We are working on those. Like, it's just crazy what we're trying to pack into our day. Yeah. And so it has to come back to the athlete and coming to know thyself. Yes. Now with that, what we heard within the series was strength. We as endurance athletes, like, we just want to get our fix. Yeah. And that fix, we need to start being a little bit more imaginative, myself included. I'm like, I can't wait till COVID's over, because I'm going to join the gym, the CrossFit gym, because I believe in what Vanessa was, speaking to. And because of this balance, this yin and this yang of, okay, I need a little more excitement and fun, like Dr. Juliet McGrattan, like she totally found her fun factor in it.
Right.
And to keep trying to figure out, how am I going to do this strength thing, which I hadn't really grown up with. It wasn't really part of my culture. And now I keep on hearing, I got to do strength training. Right.
Which I think is my generation, because like, oh, we're going to go for a run. We're going to go for a ride. What do you mean lift weights? But I see how much lifting weights has just made my running stronger, my skiing stronger, all that stuff. And I can, well, not keep up with my kids when they run, but still, like, I feel the weights are really helpful.
Oh, yeah. And the science is there.
And the science is there.
Yeah.
Can you just maybe talk a little bit about training and sleep? Because I feel like sleep is the superpower.
Yes.
Everyone's saying it's the superpowers. And I know that's probably one of the things that I think women pull their hair out. And a lot of athletes, all different ages, about the whole sleeping, which is an interesting segue with nutrition, what you eat before you go to bed.
Isn't that awesome? Yeah, really understanding that blood glucose level. And like, again, like this is where science, we just are just like, oh, there's so much there.
Right. Eggs don't work.
Yeah. So with the sleep piece, and so we can talk about it like kind of like the training and then the recovery, right?
Yeah,
and the pedal on, pedal off, but that off training, they're now saying, I don't know who said this, I think it's just a general, is that like the recovery part is the fundamental aspect of the training.
Huge.
Like, I didn't get that. I totally didn't get that. I was like, you just train. And it's when we recover that we repair and we grow. And so if you are missing that, then you are going to get injured. It's not even like if, it's when. It's like, so to honor that, and then to layer on the fact that we as perimenopausal athletes are beyond need more recovery time, and to just understand and let that happen. Now, specifically to sleep, it's really fascinating when you think about melatonin, for example, and Kara talked a little bit about, cortisol comes up. It doesn't, as if cortisol is rising, then melatonin isn't, it's like the starter at the race line. Melatonin gets everybody else like in line within your body. It's like, okay, melatonin's coming in. Oh, right. Get the starter, get everybody on, shoot the gun, because we're going to get sleeping here soon. And if we mask it by caffeine, if we have our sugar is up, then we don't get that start. Right. And that start of our sleep, I mean, the speakers didn't speak to this, but that start of our sleep, we need both the start, the first hours of our sleep and deep sleep, and we need the morning sleep, because that's our REM sleep. And
one of the speakers did say, don't worry if you're awake at 3 o'clock, because you've just honored yourself from early sleep, and just don't panic and be fearful. Just rest and get that morning sleep too.
Yeah.
It's okay to be up at 3.
Sorry, say that.
It's okay to be up at 3 o'clock, because it happens.
It's going to happen. Right. And again, it's because those hormones are just shifting, and there's things you can do. Like one speaker mentioned, try to get your training in earlier in the day, but there's also light things that weren't mentioned. It's just like, well, sometimes you might actually need to wear sunglasses at the beginning of the day, and then have that spike in the afternoon of sun, so that your signal comes, like to kind of switch the signals. Like there's all these amazing things that are happening within our individual hormones that we can play with and learn about. And because sleep people get, they, like you said, if we can relax, it's so hard, but it is so necessary to try to figure out, how do I just accept that this is okay?
Exactly. I also loved, and it's sort of making a full circle here with your mindset and your training and your nutrition and your recovery, is, what should that individual give attention to, like before, during, and after, and what are we feeling and sensing, and what are we going to do about that? How is that individual going to recover?
Mhm.
What am I going to put into my body so I can go for a big bike ride? And how are we going to support it with our mindset, with our nutrition, with our training and sleep and recovery? So and I what I love about these series is that you have given us, and thank you, is taking these bits of information and figuring out how it works for ourselves.
Mhm.
It's kind of like when you have a baby and you've got everyone telling you how to breastfeed, or how to feed your kid, and you're like, okay, I'm going to take
Yeah.
all this information and then I'm going to just figure it out what works best for me. And that's what you've given us in this series, is really these points of information and saying, okay, now what can we do about it?
Yeah. And I think there's one more thing that I would say to that. And Ruth England and Jennifer Howard Brown talked about it in theirs, and that is the community component.
Yeah. Yeah.
And you create community, and I create community in a virtual way. And it is the community to ask these questions and have conversations. And I think it's kind of a perfect place to kind of leave it, because
Absolutely.
we need each other.
Yeah. Well, yeah, we do.
Yeah.
And I think we've come to the realization even this year that we need each other even more, and how powerful it is with what we're going to lay down the road for the future, for our kids, for our community at perimenopausal and beyond. It's really exciting, as we said in the beginning. So now I'm going to do some rapid fire questions. Had that little backwards there. So, one moment of courage.
So when I I was working in a national federation, and I was really struggling in the environment, and I went to a counselor, and the counselor had told me, close your eyes. And I closed my eyes, and she said, okay, now put yourself into a really amazing and happy place. And I started imagining this. And then, we went through this whole dialogue, and she said, now tell me, where were you? And I said, coaching on the side of a pool.
Oh.
And I realized then I could no longer do what I was doing, and that I needed to make a difference for people in a coaching way. And it really is my happy place to have somebody get something about their body. Mm-hmm. And it took a lot of courage to step back from a regular paycheck, from something that I had always kind of grown up in, like you need to have security, and to step into, oh, I was athlete and now I'm coach. And to really, and that's fast forward to where I am at today, and now want to like just shout on with a megaphone, like, women, we've got something to do, and that took a lot of courage, and here I am. And it takes courage every day, to keep going.
Thank you for making that decision for yourself, because boy, we are benefiting. So I appreciate that. One thing that you are grateful for right now?
My husband, I would say, because without his belief and ongoing support and just rock solid ability for letting me grow to the person, like it was with him that I felt so safe to explore who I really was and to let go. And he is so solid. He's like Romanian solid.
Awesome.
Yeah, very.
Awesome. Okay, one last final question for you. One piece of advice that you would give yourself right now.
Yeah. I tell myself constantly that it's perfect. And I say it is perfect all the time, because we come into struggles every day. My son home from daycare today. And what do we do? We have to roll. We just roll.
Yep.
And so there's choices in every single day that I get to make of whether I am going to be like, like, how am I gonna do it? Or, okay, well, what can I see?
Yeah.
How do I shift? And so I guess the advice that I give to myself and will continue to do as I get symptoms or as I learn through something is that I'm here to be on a journey, and it's perfect because then I will have access to something new.
I am enough. I am enough.
I am enough. Oh, I am enough, and I'm totally lovable.
No, I am so looking forward to seeing where you land in the future and what you're going to be up to in the next 10 years, 20 years. It's going to be so fun to follow you. And I'm really looking forward to seeing and talking to you on your Facebook Lives and just getting that word out there and all this information out here. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Willa, for interviewing me. And here we go on to the next one, right? All right. Bye-bye.